All right, this morning, this is the story of Sleeping Beauty. This was also made into a movie by Walt Disney. This is the original fairy tale about Sleeping Beauty, maybe a little different than the movie. Once there lived a king and queen who were overjoyed when a baby girl was born to them. So that's the king and queen right there. It seemed as though everyone in the kingdom was invited to a grand feast for her. The most important guests were the 12 fairies who made special wishes for children. At the feast, the 12 fairies gave the little girl their best gifts: beauty and riches and goodness and much more. There are the 12 fairies there, and there's the little princess. Just as the 11th fairy had finished her wish, there was a crash as the door swung open. It was the 13th fairy, whom everyone had forgotten. "Here's my present," she screeched. "On her 15th birthday, the princess will prick her finger on a spindle and die. That will teach you to forget me." Not a very nice fairy. As the guests looked at each other in horror, the 12th fairy spoke. "I can make the curse a little better," she said. "The princess will prick her finger, but she will not die. Instead, she will fall asleep for 100 years. The years passed, and the princess grew up to be clever, kind, and beautiful. On her 15th birthday, she woke up early. Here's a picture of her. Her 15th birthday. She woke up early. Outside, she noticed a little door she had never seen before. She opened it and climbed eagerly up the stairs inside. At the top of the stairs was a very old woman. Now the princess had never seen anyone spinning before, for the king had banished all spindles from the kingdom. Of course, spinning is how they made cloth. They spun, it was called a spindle, and they would spin cloth or thread into cloth. "Would you like to try?" the old woman asked, holding out the spindle to the curious girl. There's a picture of the needle, the spindle. As she took the spindle, the princess pricked her finger and at once fell asleep. At the same moment, everyone in the castle fell asleep as well, even the hunting dogs. And that was the picture I showed you of the people falling asleep, and all the people in the kingdom were falling asleep. Many, many years later, exactly 100 in fact, a prince happened to be passing the castle. It was so overgrown with brambles that you could only see the topmost turrets. But as he rode along beside the high, thorny hedge, it burst into bloom and opened to let the prince through. The prince soon found himself in the small room where the princess was sleeping. He could not resist bending to kiss her. At that moment, the 100 years came to an end. The princess opened her eyes and saw a handsome young man smiling down at her. It was not long before the prince and the princess were married. This time, the king was very careful indeed with his invitations. And that is the story of Snow White.